Alright, hello everybody. It's August 22nd, 2021 in Peterborough, Ontario, and I'm doing another garden tour video. It's been about a month since I've seen this garden, so I came back to check it out, and everything's grown up really well, so I wanted to do another update. So on the fence here, we've got native riverbank grape. This is its second year. It's growing along the fence in some really poor soil, so it's really crappy, dry, sandy, rocky, not a lot of nutrition, and it's doing really, really well. So it's spreading out. You can see over here it attracts a lot of Japanese beetles, so it makes it a little bit easier to plop them into a bucket of soapy water. But it also feeds native beetles like the grapevine chafer, which is a really, really attractive one. It looks like a giant ladybug. It's also a host plant for sphinx moths like the Pandora sphinx, and it'll just grow along this fence and just kind of cover that whole empty area and make it look really, really cool. On the side here is a common ninebark, which isn't growing as dramatically as I thought it would. It's getting a little bit shaded from the fence, but I mean it's growing up a little bit. Over here is some Virgensbauer clematis, the native clematis, and that's starting to grow up. It's sort of bushing out and kind of crawling the fence a little bit. It's not doing as much as I thought it would. It's probably getting a little bit too shaded, but it's doing something. So I was hoping it would crawl up the fence and then eventually go over onto our free seed library. So I made this last winter and just put some, giant swallowtail and giant sunflower and monarch and yellow-banded bumblebee and etc. But the idea is to put seeds in it. People have just been putting books in it, which is whatever. But eventually, when I get more seed packets, I'll put seed packets in it and spread all these native weeds throughout the neighborhood. The other side. Down here is fragrant sumac. I thought I basically killed this. I planted it here and it only had like a couple leaves on it this year, and then since I've been gone, it grew all these extra leaves, so it's doing better than I thought it was. So that's really good. It's a alvar plant, so you often find them in dry, rocky alvar kind of like areas. So I figured it would be good for the soil. It's very dry and very rocky, and yeah, it should be good. So here's the rest of the garden. So growing along the there we go, along the north side of the house. This side of the garden was planted 3 years ago. Well, the whole garden's about three or four. The front's 4 years old. This is 3 years old. So anyway, along the side here we've got our spotted jewelweed, which is a really easy plant to grow. It's an annual, but it reseeds itself really well, and the flowers are really attractive to bumblebees and other bees, and I really like it. So spotted jewelweed. In the back here there's our oxeye false sunflower, a classic pollinator plant. The bees really like the flowers, and then when it goes to seed, the goldfinches eat the seeds. But also in the back, you can focus on this one. Put my trusty evening primrose stalk, point them out. So all on this stalk right here, they're red aphids, and they completely cover these the stalks of the oxeye false sunflower. And a lot of people don't like aphids. They get the soapy water and spray them off. But my mom's seen goldfinches coming down and actually like picking the aphids off of the flowers. So they're, your garden's feeding the neighborhood. It's hard to see if there's all sorts of little tiny bees buzzing around the sunflower right now. It's beautiful. Over here is our red osier dogwood, which has grown a lot from last year. If you look at the previous videos, this is just really, really branched out and is really growing nicely and is filling this whole space. And it'll look really nice in the winter when everything's, when everything's done and these stalks turn nice and red. I've seen northern azure butterflies laying eggs on them, which is really nice. Oh, there's a cabbage white just flying by. Yeah, it's a good plant. These things here, they're a little bit weedy looking, but these are all our common evening primrose. A few more flowers that are still going to open. These guys will flower pretty late into the season. But you can see all the seed pods, so these have all been flowers, so they're constantly flowering throughout the season. Bees really, really like the flowers. They have a lot of nectar and a lot of pollen. And I got these plants from a wild plant. I just found a seed head that was growing down the street, and I just scattered the seeds, and they're biennial, so they have a basal rosette the first year, and then they grow the second year, and then they die off. So I scattered a lot of seed and different for different years, so there's kind of like this overlapping generations, and so evening primrose just kind of pops up randomly throughout the garden. every year, you know, in different spaces. So this year it decided to come up all on the side. Last year it was all on in the front yard. So we'll see where it comes up next year. Along here we have our common snowberry. This is little blue stem grass, prairie grass. There's more oxeye fall sunflower that is more in the sun. Next to it is daisy fleabane, which came from across the street. There's kind of a, you know, an unmowed area across the street with a couple native plants, and the daisy fleabane has come over, which is nice. It's usually full of bees. This is New England aster, and the same thing with the evening primrose. I got the aster from just wild plants that were growing in fields around the house. So I just collected a few seed heads, I sprinkled them throughout the garden, and now we have tons of aster. So you'll see as we go along, there's lots and lots of New England aster. A few of them are already starting to flower. One there, one in the back right there. Lots more evening primrose. The goldfinches also really like to eat the seeds of the evening primrose, so it's a good plant to have. This here is either Canada goldenrod or tall goldenrod. They both look really similar to me. But this is one that's normally you really don't want to have in a garden, especially a garden bed this size. When these guys get established, they send out rhizomes, roots in the ground, and they'll kind of basically create like a blanket on the ground that other plants can't get through, and they'll smother your whole garden. They're absolutely horrible. I made the mistake of seeding these here about 3 years ago just because I didn't have any other plants and I wanted something to come up. So I was like, well, until I find plants, we'll just have goldenrod. And none of it came up the first year, and then it started coming up last year really badly in the front and actually smothered a few areas. So I had to rip out huge areas and replant. And this year it came up pretty strongly in the spring, but not as strong. And there's a few that I've missed. So there's one here, and there's one flowering in the back, and you can see how popular they are with pollinators. There's all sorts of wasps and bees on that right now. And so the ones that come up late in the season that I find, I just leave them. I let them flower, and then when they're done flowering before they go to seed, I'll just rip up the whole plant and the roots around them and everything, and then do that again in the spring to make sure that they don't take over. But they're really, really good late season fall forage, so might as well leave a couple of them. There's a little bit of a more well-behaved goldenrod down here. This is a zigzag goldenrod, which is a nice woodland species. There's showy tick trefoil right here, which is a plant that I missed. I missed it when it was flowering. It flowered for like about 3 weeks, but I haven't been here in a month, so it's pretty much done flowering right now. But you can see all the seed heads on it where it gets its name, showy tick trefoil. The seed heads are very, very sticky. But it's a great plant to have. It's a butterfly host plant. The bees really love it when it's flowering. So here's our kind of woodland area. There's some hydro connection in there, so I really didn't want to plant this area too densely so people can get in if they need to. There's woodland plants in the bottom. There's more zigzag goldenrod, and there's fringe loosestrife, and there's a lot of woodland strawberry. There's some northern bush honeysuckle in the back. That thing that's growing up along the side of the house there is prickly gooseberry. There's a couple of them in there. The other one right there. So that's doing really well. It's a cool native gooseberry. There's some blackberries over here. So there's a little bit of blackberry there, and there's more blackberry. It's hard to see, but it's along the side of the house. And that it's not blackberry. I'm pretty sure it's red raspberry. But anyway, rubus species. So the seeds that I got from that one, I actually got it from a bear scat. I found a bear scat near Algonquin Park a couple years ago, and it was full of, you know, berry seeds. So I broke it up and I mixed it with dirt and sand, and I scattered it in a few different parts of the garden, and now red raspberries are coming up. I'll have to watch them because they can take over an area, but it's kind of cool that I have, you know, that I was able to help these plants migrate so far. In the back here, there's I think that's largely faster, and then further in the back underneath the window is, I'm pretty sure it's blue wood aster. I'm not very good with my asters, guys. Over here, this group is one of my favorite plants, the hemp dogbane, also known as common dogbane. It's mostly done flowering, but there's still a few flowers. There's a big patch of this down the street from my house, and it finished flowering like way back in July when I was here last. I already had seed pods, but mine's a little bit more shaded. So this is a purple coneflower, which is obvious. It's, you know, a near native plant for Ontario and very popular in pollinator gardens. I seeded a few of these here about 3 years ago, and this is the first year that we got any flowers coming up. Not my favorite flower, but I kind of like them because they communicate pollinator garden. And so in a garden like this one that's very sort of overgrown with weeds, it's very purposeful, but it's very overgrown at the same time. A purple coneflower can go a long way. So in the bottom here is wild geranium maculatum, which is going to be really nice again this spring. It's a black-eyed Susan. It's another New England aster that's open nice and early. They get all the bees. It's a nice big patch of that showy tick trefoil. And I am a little bit of a horrible person for planting showy tick trefoil with those sticky seeds right next to the sidewalk, but hopefully that means the seeds are just getting dispersed along the neighborhood. Over here is a choke cherry that's grown really big. It's about as tall as I am now. It's grown really well over here. And next to it, let me see if I can get the whole thing in here, is the behemoth. So that really tall plant, that is Helianthus giganteus, the tall sunflower. And it is, if you can see there, it's taller than the second story window. I measured it and it's just over 11 feet tall. The cup plant next to it is just over 8 feet tall for comparison. So I thought the cup plant was really big. If you look at videos from last year, this cup plant was nothing last year. It was about 4 feet tall last year, and now it's gigantic. And this tall sunflower, I grew it from seed, so I threw some seed down here that I'd collected last year, and I actually forgot about it. And then it started growing, and I was like, what the hell is this gigantic plant in my yard? And it's giant sunflower. So it's a late bloomer, but you can sort of see it's, oh, my finger in the way, sorry. You can sort of see on it, it's covered in buds. And so when it flowers, I'll have to take another video just of it, because it'll be just covered in beautiful yellow flowers. In the back is what I think is lance leaf aster, possibly. More tick trefoil. It's another unknown species of aster. I collected it. I'm not sure which species it is, but hopefully when it blooms, we'll be able to find out. More daisy fleabane. This is wild bergamot, which was all blooming. If you look at my last video, it was blooming really strongly then, but it's pretty much all done now. And a lot of people don't like, they'll just cut wild bergamot back when it goes to powdery mildew stage. But I think, you know, the contrast between everything else, all the green and yellow, the powdery mildew actually looks really nice. And I kind of like the way that the seed heads look as well. They sort of look like a giant flower, so I think they're kind of nice looking, so I leave them. But anyway, giant cup plant, which is usually pretty much full of bumblebees. And then we get to the rest of the giant flowers. So these yellow flowers here are all cut leaf coneflower, the Rubecula cineata, also known as wild golden glow or green-headed coneflower. I like golden glow because when you look at it here, especially when it's a little bit shaded, it really does glow against, you know, the backdrop. So the only problem with this flower is that it tends to flop a little bit, especially in the back. So I have to kind of prop them up a little bit with tomato cages, but some of them I ran out of tomato cages, so some of them just kind of flopped. But like this one here is pretty floppy. I don't mind it that much. Like I don't mind it enough to get rid of it, but it is something I have to deal with a little bit better next year. This other yellow flower is Helenium autumn now, the common sneezeweed. There's another sort of near native. There's Anise hyssop right there. More Canada goldenrod. Lots more New England aster. And the thing about this garden is, I mean, it starts off really slow in the spring. You know, we have bloodroot and hepatica, and I planted, you know, some plum trees and stuff as well. But it starts off really slow, and then, you know, the later spring stuff comes in, and then the bergamot and the milkweed, and then really late in the season, it's really full of resources for pollinators. And research shows that that I've been looking at shows that a lot of pollinators, monarchs, bees, and stuff like that, are limited by late fall resources. So having a lot of late summer, late fall resources is really good. There's a bumblebee right there on the cut leaf coneflower. Lots of different species of bees. I don't see any right now, but we were getting a lot of longhorn bees as well, which nest in the ground. We have some open bare patches of ground, so I wonder if they're nesting here, hopefully. Some more cut leaf coneflower. So the cut leaf coneflower here is about 7 feet tall. The cup plant goes from about 8.5, and then the tall sunflower is 11.5. So pretty cool. There's sweet Joe pie weed. There's still a little bit of bergamot blooming. You can see it right there. Last of the bergamot. Then you come around the side and it's all pretty much all New England aster. This one here is a light form one, which was kind of cool. I didn't realize it was a light form when I planted it, so it's a different color. Some prairie grasses. I always say I want to get more prairie grasses, so I definitely want to put more switchgrass in. So that's switchgrass, which is one of my favorites. There's white heath aster, which isn't blooming yet. Here's another tall sunflower that grew. This one's a little bit less happy over here. It's a little bit, you know, it has droopy leaves. It's been really hot lately, so it doesn't seem to like the heat as much. It kind of likes the part shade, moisture soil conditions for sure. Yeah, on the back is switchgrass there. This guy over here, the fluffy thistle, is my native field thistle. It's almost done flowering. There's a couple flowers left on it. But this came from Grow Wild Native Plant Nursery in Omimi. But a great species of native thistle, so it's really cool. It flowered for about a month, and when it's flowering, it's just covered in bees and butterflies. It brought in black swallowtails. It was really nice. This flower here is, you know, the classic Rotibita pinnata, the gray-headed coneflower or prairie coneflower. There's branch coneflower down there, or Rudbeckia triloba. There was a lot more of this last year. Like if like I'll have to post a fall video that I took, but this whole garden was pretty much nothing but Rudbeckia triloba, and now there's only maybe, you know, 3 or 4 plants this year. Everything else is really kind of matured in. More switchgrass. This is a tall ironweed that really isn't happy. It doesn't have a ton of competition here. It's getting full sun, but it's only like maybe 3 feet tall, so it should be a lot taller than this. So I might have to move it in the fall to a less heat-stressed location. This is the hottest, driest part of the garden, so it might not be the best for a plant that likes wetlands. A lot of New England aster. This New England aster is just gigantic. More cutleaf coneflower. I'll show you in the back here. So in the back here we have, it's a little bit of a shadier, wetter area, so we have some wetland plants. So there's our common bone set, which is full of bees. There's spotted Joe pieweed, swamp milkweed, blue vervain, anise hyssop over there, switchgrass of course, some Canada wild rye. This is smooth rose, some more oxeye false sunflower. This over here is an elderberry that's growing really nicely. And then yeah, just all of that cutleaf coneflower. Lots and lots of bees. Coming back around, this is the first native plant that I planted here, our dense blazing star, which is all done flowering right now. There's this guy. This is one of my favorites as well. This is the clammy ground cherry, Physalis, and it's just a beast. I didn't think it was going to get this big, but you can see underneath it's still got lots of flowers. It's got a lot of fruit growing on it, and the bees really like it. Like whenever I shake it, you know, a little bit, bees always fly out of it, so it's a great pollen source for them. Let's come around here. You can see the milkweed patch, lots of nice pods on it. There's been monarchs in this garden, but no caterpillars this year for some reason. Haven't found any caterpillars, so that's kind of funky. Cutleaf coneflower, switchgrass. In the back there is a combination that I hope spreads out a little bit over the years. It's where is it? There it is. Flat top white aster and tall ironweed. They're just a beautiful combination, I think, at this time of year. You can see all the bergamot that's gone to seed now, or going to seed. This I'm really happy. This came in the Sargassum nutans, a savanna grass. I'm really glad this guy came in. I don't know if you can see the seed head very well, but this is my favorite prairie grass. And I planted a bunch of it here last year, but I planted it during a really hot time of the year in September. And I think most of the plugs that I planted just died of heat stroke. I didn't water them enough. So I'm really glad I have one that came back, and I'm super happy and protected about it. I hope it just grows into a big, nice, fat pile in the coming years. So down here is our New Jersey tea. We love New Jersey tea. And then here's another cool plant. There's the cylindrical blazing star. It's known as dwarf blazing star. there it is right there. It's hard for me to see my phone with the sun right now, but hopefully I'm getting everything. So yeah, our cylindrical blazing star, it's a little blue stem, more milkweed, more gray-headed coneflower. There's our grass leaf goldenrod, hairy beard tongue. Our flat top white goldenrod is all done flowering. Some more cylindrical blazing star, butterfly milkweed. This is early goldenrod. It looks like Canada goldenrod, but it looks different to me, but they all kind of look the same. It's Canada goldenrod. These New England asters are really starting to bloom right here along the corner, which is lovely. The lovely contrast. Along the side of the health strip here, we got a whole bunch of black-eyed Susans that just reseeded themselves, so that's really cool. It's just naturally spreading, so we keep the side mode to keep it kind of nice, but I think the black-eyed Susans are just kind of like, an added thing. The garden's matured so much, there's not really any black-eyed Susans anymore, so it's nice to have them in one area. All right, then around the side, there's a lot more evening primrose. This is my giant evening primrose. It like mutated or something. It has like absolutely huge seed heads on it. Crazy. Evening primrose also makes a good place for spiders to hang out. So there's a little spider hanging out in there. I'm not very good with my spiders, so I don't know what type of spider it is, but pretty cool to see. You can see all the burnt out bergamot. There's this flower here. This is the Hortensia cutleaf coneflower. So it's a cultivar of the cutleaf coneflower I was showing you earlier. And cultivars are tricky because you have it's grown for double bloom, so it has diminished pollen and nectar, but there's still a little bit in there. So every now and then you'll get bees in there, but not like the other plants. And then our volunteer sunflower in the back there. All right, and that's basically the garden right now in August. So it's really looking cool, and I'll take another video for sure once the aster starts blooming and the tall sunflower and everything. So it's still a work in progress, but it's starting to look like a micro prairie. So